Well, I think people have seen often
Now,
enough
can
on.
we move these while we're sort of going?
Sure. There's no great.
But he's going to keep going. He's not going to stop.
He's going to stop a couple of times to move the camera
To move the
so
camera.
that it looks better, so that
Uh-huh.
there's just a different perspective and point of view. And when he does that, we have to stop where we are and not talk, because if we talk, we forget where we are.
Uh-huh.
I'll pretty much wait for a break in the conversation or the end of a sentence or something like that.
Okay.
But it'll take me seconds to truck over and get a different shot, and then we just start right up again.
Okay.
Okay?
So should I tell my husband and my mother not to come in while we're...
That's a good idea.
You're mic'd up.
Because-
Well,
You can't go
let
anywhere.
Victor.
Uh,
Don?
Hi, Don. My name's Walter. My pleasure. We're going to shoot a show now, I'm sure you know. And we were going to ask people not to come in here for a little while. Is that all right? Would you mind, sir, please?
So you want to tell my mother? Because I'm sure she's going to come in and ask if I want string beans for supper or something.
What better question to start the television show? I mean, really? Now, is that phone going around?
Oh, it could. Should we turn the ringer down?
Is there a ringer? Okay. Look at
Okay, and there's a phone in the other room. Should we?
that. In here?
Yeah, right through that doorway and to the left.
That's okay. Not to worry about that.
Okay.
Natural sounds. It just doesn't make you, it'd be pretty deafening afterwards.
Yeah, they turned it up. Attention to detail.
You can see it. You
Yeah.
can see the crooked phone. All right. I'm going to count you down. Victor, why don't you do that? Whenever you're ready.
Okay. In 5, 4, 3, 2.
This is Mary Michelle for WVIP, and this is Taking Time. And today I'm spending time with Bonnie Wilder. She's the director of the Little Farm Montessori Nursery School in Katona. I want to welcome you here today with us, Bonnie.
We can start that over.
Thank you.
It was really my fault. I was dying for you to do anything. I was going to use any excuse. Because I messed up the camera. It's me. It's me. It's me.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Whenever you're ready, then.
Okay. In 5, 4, 3, 2.
This is Mary Michelle for WVIP, and this is Taking Time. I'm here today.
Sorry, Mary Michelle.
That's okay.
It's all right.
Well, I blew it too.
Okay, whenever you're ready.
Okay. Ready? 5, 4, 3, 2.
This is Mary Michelle for WVIP, and this is Taking Time. I'm here today with Bonnie Wilder. She is the director of the Little Farm Montessori Nursery School. I want to welcome you here with me today, Bonnie. And I wanted to ask you, how did you start the Montessori school? And also, I believe you were a painter. Did you go directly from painting to the school, or?
Well, both, I guess, had the same beginning, because when I was very young, I was very full of questions about life. And I ended up being a textile designer, but then when I had my child, I became very interested in education. And through art, I can take time to explore questions about life. And with the children, of course, it's the most wonderful question of the unfolding of human intelligence that one is in front of.
Right. And what is it that you search for when you did paint? Was the searching for in the painting lead into the searching in working with the child? Do you do a lot of painting with the children here?
Yes, we do a lot of artwork. But in a way, you could say that when I do painting, it's separate. It's very much my very own sort of search to remember the invisible in life. Because in trying to paint from a different point of view what one sees, actually one starts to question, what are the invisible forces that make the visible? And
this is something that children relate to quite easily, I think. They understand oftentimes through image, perhaps better than, is this part of the?
well, I think children, it's all so natural for them. And for a grown-up, you have to relearn and go back to, like I remember when I first started with the children, I used to be upset that they wanted to paint purple grass and, green people. And now I just think it's wonderful that
Yeah.
they're free enough
Sure.
to do that.
You've given them the space to be able to go with their imagination, so
Yes.
that's very important. Could you describe a little bit the Montessori method and how it is different?
Well, the idea of Montessori is that one doesn't have to teach children, that the child is already born with a great desire to learn and a wish to understand and a wish to reach out and explore life, and that somehow when we come at the child trying to teach them what we think the child ought to know, we actually stifle their desire to learn, and they end up hating school instead of continuing wanting to learn throughout life. And
Could you tell me something of the background of the lady? It was a lady that started.
Yes.
What was her name?
Maria Montessori.
Maria Montessori.
She first became a doctor. She was the first woman...
In this country?
No, in Italy. She was the first woman to actually graduate medical school, which in her time was a great feat.
Which is when? The time?
Well, in the Victorian times, it was about 70 years ago.
Wow.
And then she became very interested in children and in educating children. And she traveled all over the world and started schools. She explored and invented materials that would make learning interesting for children, because she felt that children are ready, willing, and able to learn all about their world. We just have to provide interesting materials for them. And
What were some? Can you give me examples of what the original materials were that she promoted or came up with?
she was the first one who started this hands-on approach, so that one might learn math by counting seashells or sorting seashells and arranging blocks from large to small, learning to count by using little objects. And she believed in offering many different subjects to the child, so that the child could find their own interest. And because interest is a real motivation for learning, and it involves the whole child when they're following their interest rather than something that somebody is telling them, you must learn this or you must learn that.
So there's a.
Okay, that's 5.5 minutes we've used up out of your 12.5, so you have 7.5 to go.
Hold on a second, Joe's here. Don't pull in.
interrupting the child.
Okay.
That's a message I'd like to get across to
Okay.
parents.
All right.
Okay, we'll count you down. In 5, 4, 3, 2.
It seems to me that you have talked, in our previous conversations, you have talked about the nature of the emotion and the physical and these components and how they're taught in the Montessori school. Could you expand on that idea a little bit?
Well, I think in traditional education, too much emphasis is put on just the intellect, and it's taking the child as just a fractured part of a human being. And in some independent schools now, they try to work with teaching the child math and language and geometry by having them build stage sets and put on a play, for instance, so that they're doing math, they're doing language, and they're doing a lot of different subjects, but they're doing it while they're involved in something that they're interested in. And Montessori also brought about this whole idea of the hands-on approach where the child is handling materials, and instead of having group lessons, she felt that the children should choose what they'd like to do from a variety of things so that they would be motivated again by interest, which is their emotions, and their bodies are involved because they're handling things and moving about the classroom. So again, it's the three parts, and when you have these three parts of a human being working in harmony together, it gives a sense of being more alive and being more fulfilled.
So the three parts are the emotional, the intellectual, and the body.
Right.
Is that the idea?
Right.
And then when you work with them one-on-one, the idea is that you don't interrupt, that you allow them to speak a lot. You want them to come up with different ideas.
To speak a lot and also to finish what they begin. I think that this is one of her most important ideas, that one should respect the child and respect their time, so that we're not imposing, oh, now you have to stop in order to eat, or now you have to stop, we're going to piano lesson, or now you have to rush because we'll be late for swimming. Instead of the parent imposing a schedule on the child, to give the child time to finish what they're doing, to take a walk and just wander here and there and examine.
Do you think we could do Montessori for seniors? Taking time for everybody, I think that's important.
Yeah.
You have a wonderful little puppeteer place or a game or theater. Could you explain that a little bit, or what you do with it?
Well,
Stop. You're doing very well, by the way. I meant to tell you that before, but I was so into getting a good picture of you that I forgot to tell you how fluid you are. It's obvious that you handle people all the time. Obvious. Okay, now you're talking about you're just going to describe the puppet thing, okay? Now hold on. I'm going to give you a time check. Hold on. 5, 4, 3, 2.
the idea of puppet shows and drama, I think, are very important because children learn a lot through their imagination, through imaginative play, as well as the imitative play that Montessori materials train a child to function in ordinary life, being able to pour and spoon and play bank and so on. But the imaginative play helps the child to understand about the magic in life, and also the feelings, and of many of the fairy tales and myths from around the world give this sense of making extraordinary efforts to get something of value and using cleverness. I mean, magic is never just given free. You have to earn it somehow.
Right. And this is a little different from Montessori's method, this idea of telling fairy tales.
Yes, she didn't believe in fairy tales at all. She felt that the child should be concentrating on basing in reality, but this is an area where I disagree with Montessori.
Well, that's good. I think the whole nature, as my understanding, is she was someone that would have encouraged that, perhaps, at least to have a little, to show that people had their own imagination, their own way of doing things. So I don't see that as necessarily being incompatible.
Well, it also is a great aid in developing creative intelligence.
I noticed that you are, this is also your home and there's a kitchen and so on. Did the children also learn to cook?
Oh, we do baking and a lot of art projects and interacting with the farm animals, making maple syrup and picking raspberries and so on.
Okay.
And the idea of having it in your home, also Montessori felt that a home environment was a better environment to learn in than something that was very cold and institutional.
Okay. We're going to take a little break.
Stop. Very good, by the way, okay? Remember, we're going to be able to get to all that stuff in a minute.
Okay.
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 Anytime.
Okay. This is Mary Michelle. We're going to take a little break, and when we come back, we'll talk more about the Little Farm Nursery School here with Bonnie Wilder. Thank you.
Clean up. You're very good, Mary. Boss. I'll say it right now. My boss is the biggest ham and has been for the past, I don't know, 100 years.
100.
There you go. Okay, we're ready to go. I'll count you down. In 5, 4, 3, 2.
This is Mary Michelle at WVIP.
That's
Can
all
I
right.
do it again?
4 VIP or
4 VIP?
whatever.
Okay. This is Mary Michelle for WVIP, and this is Taking Time. I'm back with Bonnie Wilder at the Little Farm Montessori Nursery School.
I'm sorry. It's just getting louder by the second, too. It's amazing. Go for it, Vic.
Yeah, call upstairs and tell my husband to turn the TV down. I think it's him. It could be my mother next door. I don't know which TV it's.
Well, now it's off, of course.
That's no help to us. They have to know.
Hello?
Poor Victor, I think Victor Nobody's there?
It's gone.
It's gone? Okay, let's try again. Didn't happen before. It probably won't happen again. All right? I'm sorry. Okay.
Okay.
Down. In 5, 4, 3, 2.
This is Mary Michelle for VIP, and this is Taking Time. I'm back with Bonnie Wilder, the Little Farm Montessori Nursery School, and we're having a conversation about just what is the nature of the Montessori Nursery School. And we wanted to talk a little bit about the nature of all of those wonderful animals that you have outside, and what is that exactly is the idea behind having the animals, and perhaps is there a little bit of a risk involved?
Well, I think that it's very important for children to have real experiences. And unfortunately, life now, a lot of time is spent sitting in front of a screen for the child. And the young child really learns through interacting with real life. And of course, it evokes an emotion in a child and brings them very much to life when they're in front of an animal. They're a little afraid maybe that the animal might yell at them or bump them or bite them even, or they might just feel delight at seeing this living thing and feeling.
So it shows them
real
really
life.
that that's what life is about sometimes, that you kind of have to take these little risks, at the same time be very careful.
But at the same time, if you see a child's face when they hold a little chick for the first time and they feel a vibration of life in that, that's like such an important experience, I think, especially when one is young, to have these impressions.
And what is the wonderful bird out there? You have some kind of an exotic
A
looking
very
bird.
strange bird. It's a guinea hen.
Uh-huh. Does it have a name?
Not really. We just call it that funny bird.
Okay. And what are some of the other animals?
Well, we have one hen. We're planning to get a rooster again and some more hens. And we have goats and...
Different kinds of goats.
Yes, a pygmy goat, an aunt, a mommy, and a little girl named Emma Whiteboots.
Oh, perfect.
She was named after one of the children, as a matter of fact, because kids are
Right,
so much alike.
Right, exactly. And then there's a horse, right?
Yes, we have a pony whose name is Mary because she's the color of a merry-go-round pony. In the summertime, anyway. In the winter, she's covered with heavy fur.
And a dog, of course.
Yes.
What's his name?
Duffy.
Duffy.
Yes.
There's also a garden. Do the children ever do gardening?
Well, when we had a summer program, we used to do a garden for the children. Now we do a lot of nature study, and we do planting beans and matching leaves, and we do some gardening.
Your husband built a wonderful elephant. Could you tell me a little bit about the elephant and what the children do with it?
Yes, it has nothing to do with politics that we have 2 elephants on the property. The elephant is the symbol of Somers.
Oh.
And my husband and I just like elephants. So my husband built a playhouse in the shape of an elephant, and then I painted an elephant with wings on one of the animal sheds. And unfortunately, sometimes the children see this picture of the elephant and they think there should be a real elephant inside, so they're a little disappointed at that.
Oh, well, they can climb around inside of it and play in it. It's almost like a
Yes.
little house, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, it's great. There is also this rather unusual structure out there, this hexagram, or this, is it a play, something they
Oh, a
play?
climbing dome. Yes.
That's a wonderful, reminds me a bit of a Bertrand Russell kind of thing, or some far out idea. Is that an old?
Well, it's very sturdy, and the children like to climb on it. And of course, climbing and running and is all part of. Also, Montessori has exercises called grace and courtesy, which is something missing from life today. But it's really to show children a way to get along with others rather than pushing somebody out of the way. You can speak to them.
So is this a little, how does this manifest as a game?
Well, she was the first one to bring a balance beam into the classroom so that the child could really use their body when they felt like it, not just have to sit in a chair. Because, of course, when she started, it was Victorian times, and they had these big desks bolted to the floor. And she was the one that freed it all and said, have little chairs and tables and let the child play on the floor. And
So this idea, I'm not quite sure, I don't quite get this idea of the balance beam and grace and, what was the game?
Courtesy.
Grace and courtesy. So how does that work? They have to ask to be on it, or?
Well, there's exercises in courtesy are just to help the child get along in the world with other people, because I mean part of what one does in nursery school is socialize the child. So you have this very essential self-centered little being which you want to retain also. I mean, some of this inner strength and belief in themselves and self-esteem, but you also want to help them get along with other people, and that's part of being in a social group. And one of the things I said at the beginning, that one of the ideas of education is to nourish intelligence and caring in the child, that this is what human beings are about, or the best that one can find in a human being. And caring is being able to get along in a social situation, which a child already has in them, the wish to be accepted by the group and to have people be friendly toward them. They just have to understand what their limits are. And so one has to give them this in a firm, cheerful way.
Well, understandably. Is there a memorization process in this form of education? Do they learn poetry?
We do do poetry because that's really part of learning to love language. And instead of teaching reading and writing as sort of a separate skill, we take this whole idea of language as part of human intelligence and try to foster this love of language. And of course, learning poetry is part of that.
There is a particular poem you wanted to read. It's an Eskimo?
Yes, it's an old Eskimo song, and it's one of my favorites. And it starts out about, I think, over my small adventures and my fears and those small things that seemed so big and all the vital things I had to get and to reach. And yet there's only one great thing, the only thing, to live, to see the great day that dawns, and the light that fills the world.
And so many of your paintings are about that kind of inspiration, aren't they?
Yes, I try to explore this idea of light because, of course, light itself is invisible. But without that light or the energy from the sun, we couldn't exist. But, of course, we know it only as it is reflected off other things and what we intuit and sense.
Now, are there any political or religious feelings that go into the education that you give at Montessori?
No, I feel that basic wish of all human beings is to help their child and to work for their child's welfare, because the children are the growing tip of humanity. And so I think that we study ideas from all over the world, music from around the world. We celebrate different religious festivals from around the world.
Can you give me some examples?
Well, we'll do Hanukkah, but we'll also do like the Indians have, they light little candles and set them afloat in the water.
These are the Indians from India?
India, yes.
Any Native
And we also do a Native American chanting with the children and have them speak about the 4 directions, 6 directions actually.
Up and down?
Yes. And so I think that part of the child's enlargement of feeling that they're part of humanity is this wonderful variety of the world that we live in and all the different kinds of people and their different beliefs. And it makes a very rich world, and it also gives them this sense of tolerance, which comes first before love.
Is there a particular kind of psychology, or is psychology, again, something that is not, do you follow a particular brand of psychology, or are you interested in psychology at all? No, okay.
Well, well, no, I think that the psychology about what is a human being, I think it's all psychology.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really to be in touch with what's behind, and that's the intelligence, not, I mean, the reading, the writing, the geography, that's the outward map of and the manifestation of the intelligence, but to really sense what this mysterious, marvelous thing in a human being is, we don't really know what intelligence is, but to stay in touch with that.